Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working on 2 winter DIYs for your home decor using Dollar Tree supplies. So let's get started with project number 1. We're going to use this wood house from Dollar Tree, and then I have this wood tree. I took off this Christmas wood truck home decor piece. And then I've got this little mini wood tag. It's about a 2x2 size, so any scrap piece of wood. And then I've got some scrapbook paper out of my supply that's, grays and aqua tones, and then I took the wood heart off the front of the tag. Now I cut the snowflake paper to fit the front and back of the wood tag, and I cut it about an 1/8 inch shorter all the way around. I'm going to cut the stem off of this tree real easy with just some nice heavy duty scissors, sand it up a little bit, and then I've gone ahead and cut the scrapbook paper. I traced onto the scrapbook paper to fit the front of this. And then I made a smaller template. I retraced the tree again. I'll show you here in just a minute what I did right here. And then what I did is I went in about an 1/8 of an inch or so, and I redrew a new perimeter and cut that out for a new pattern. And then I took that smaller pattern and traced it onto my secondary piece of scrapbook paper here. And then that way it'll fit one over the other, just like this. Now this tree is going to kind of hang off the edge on this top and the sides. So what I did is I took a little piece of that first scrapbook paper and I cut it to fit the bottom of the tree, and then a tiny piece for the top of the tree, so if it's seen from the back it looks all nice and finished. Now this tag is just a mini ornament from Walmart. Again, like I said, 2x2 size, and I just cut some paper to fit the front of that. You could just use like a little piece of poster board if you wanted for that, just to have something substantial enough to kind of hang there. And then I've got this Dixie Belle chalk paint in a dark gray called a Gravel Road, and I'm just painting around the sides of this wood tag, and then a little bit on the front and back, about a 1/2 inch around the perimeter. I'll do the same on the tree and then on that little bitty tag as well. Just kind of around the edges here, just in case anything shows. The edges obviously will, but in case anything shows around the front, where the paper's glued to, so just kind of around that perimeter a little bit. And again on the tag, which you don't really need to. Now I'm taking my paper to my sewing machine because I love that texture, but you can totally skip this step if you're not a sewer. I'm just going to show you this first little piece I'm sewing here, but I do them all the rest off camera. And now I'm taking 120 grit sandpaper in my sanding block, and I'm just going around the edges of the tag just to distress it a little bit. That's it, just get a little bit of that rustic look. And now here's what my paper looks like all sewed around the edges. And now if you're not a sewer, you can add texture by taking the open end of your scissor blades and scraping it along all the edges of your paper. I'll show you here what it looks like in just a minute. It adds just great rustic texture. And I do this on all types of paper on all my projects that I use. There, that's what it looks like. So you can see that nice, great texture there. So we'll just kind of go around some more of these pieces here and show you the process. And then once you're done with these, set it aside, and we're going to drill a hole in our little house, which I of course have been calling a tag, because obviously we're making this into a tag. We're also going to need to drill a hole in the tree. I'm using a needle here because I needed something long to kind of make a mark to drill a hole. And then we're going to start gluing our paper, but we've got to make sure that we also mark our holes on our paper for the front and backs of our little pieces. And I'm using my crocodile tool here to punch holes with. I'll have that link in the description box for you if you want to get it off Amazon. I use it for everything. I love it. Punches through leather and paper and wood. It's awesome. I could have punched the hole through my tree, of course, would have worked just fine, but I had my drill out and ready, so that's what I used. Now we're going to start gluing everything together since we have all our holes punched. So we'll kind of go ahead and glue onto the front of our tag and the back, of course. Glue our tree piece on here. And once we get everything glued, we'll start assembling it all together. Gluing our little bits on the back. And you could skip this part, but I will probably throw this into my stuff to sell at a craft show, so I want it all finished on the back. Here's our little tag. We're just covering it up. And now I have made a quote using my Cricut Explore Air machine. You, of course, could use rub-on letters or sticker letters or anything like that from Dollar Tree. And the fonts I used on this tag are Smackover and JMH Typewriter. And then on the little bitty tag, I used Crash Mounty, and I'll have those listed in the description box below for you. This is the Crash Mounty, and I always download these from dafont.com is where I get all my or 1001 fonts, but these are all dafont.com. So I'm, got everything onto my tree tag, and I'm putting this onto my little mini tag, and we'll go ahead and glue the top portion of our tree on. Now I've got some twine from Dollar Tree here, and I'm going to use these wood snowflakes from Dollar Tree. I've painted it front and back. And I've got these round wood beads I picked up at Walmart. I painted 2, of course, just in a white paint. And I'm going to go ahead and glue my little tag on here. I stringed it onto the twine and through the hole of the tree. And then adding my snowflake tag on here. And then go ahead and double knot it. And then add my beads to the end of that and tie a knot at the end of the beads so those don't fall off. And once this is done, this project is complete. If you're new to my channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Linda, and I have been a crafter for years. I love to do all sorts of DIY home decor crafts, from farmhouse to rustic to primitive. Even love to do paper crafts, just a little bit of everything. I post videos once a week, so go ahead and hit that red subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on a single video from me. Also, I'm on Instagram. Stop on over and say hi. I'll have the link in the description box for you. And also, if you're looking for more DIY inspiration, I do have a Facebook craft group. Come join that group, and the link will be in the description box as well. For now, let's get on with project number 2. So for this project, we're going to be making a rustic winter sign. Now, I'm going to use the spindle I got from Habitat for Humanity, but if you don't have this option, you could totally use the wood handle from the plunger. And then a couple of arrows here from Dollar Tree, such as this one. And this one that's a wedding arrow, because I wanted different shapes of arrows. And then this one that I got from Goodwill, but no worries, there's tons of other arrows that you could use from Dollar Tree, such as this one. Or this is that, one off of one of the signs from Dollar Tree. You could use these wood planks, which is kind of the size of the smaller arrow I'm using. And for the bottom of my sign, I'm going to use this weighted home decor piece. I'm going to use a wood square block, and then I have these wood balls from Hobby Lobby. They're 2-inch, but if you don't have those, you could totally skip this step. So I want to show you some different options for bases. You don't have to run out and buy stuff like this cute pumpkin from fall, or this cute little crate piece, or this piece here, or you could double these 2 pieces together for your base. Would work perfectly wonderful. Now for my arrow, I went ahead and took the rope and staples out, and I cut the flanges off the end, so that's ready to go. And for this arrow, I took all these pieces off, and it left kind of a little scarring, so I just filled it in with some wood filler and sanded it down, and I cut about 4 inches off the end. And of course on this one, I took the wood stake off of it and then filled the hole in with wood filler. Now I want all my pieces that are raw wood to kind of have a nice dark shade to start with, so when I go to distress it peeks through. So for these 2 pieces here, I'm going to take some Van Dyke brown paint by Arteza here, add some water to it so it's nice and thin, and kind of use it like a stain. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint it on, and then wipe off the excess. Now on this block, on a couple of the sides, I don't need to paint the center because I want to leave an area that's not painted, as you're seeing me do here, because that leaves me an area to glue to, because I'm going to use wood glue for my project today, and it works best if you kind of do unpainted raw wood to raw wood. So just do this a little bit. We'll move on to the next step. The other pieces I took outside, and I sanded the paint off with my electric sander since they, you know, already had kind of design on them. So I was down to the wood. You can see here, that's all set. And they're a nice dark wood. Oh, and I also kind of stained the ball shape as well. Now I'm taking this Debbie's Design Diary chalk paint in White Swan, and I'm going to do 2 coats around all my pieces. You can see here on the block, just like I did on the wood block, I marked the area off of the base, so I don't need to paint the center of that. So just going to paint a little bit here for you. A couple of coats on everything. I like to do 2 coats even though I go in distress and sand later, so that the areas that are left unsanded have a nice kind of finish in them. And then of course, like I said, leaving the area open here. And you could use E6000 to glue your pieces if you want. I just have the wood glue since I'm kind of working with wood. I don't know, sometimes I pull out wood glue, sometimes I pull out the E6000, but this is wood glue on this one today. And then I started sanding everything, distressing it, but the sander and sanding block was just not quite enough, so I took those out, as you can see on the right hand side, again with my electric sander, and really roughen those up a bit. So now I'm going to glue my wood block to my base. I'm going to do this in sections, and I'm going to add the glue, set it on. I let that part set for an hour, and then I take my spindle and I glue the ball onto that, let it set for about an hour or so, and then once those 2 separate pieces are all nice and set, then I'll take and glue my spindle to the remaining bottom portion. And then I let that set about an hour before I start decorating it. Now my wood pieces here, I was going to leave everything all white, but it was too white. So on one of them I used this Dixie Belle chalk paint in Coffee Bean, and I just painted right over the white, and then I distressed it with my electric sander. And on the other one I used this Dixie Belle Rustic Red, painted right again over the white, and then sanded it. Now for the words on my signs, I made my own stencil here, and I use my Arteza transfer tape because it's kind of like a plastic material and works great as a stencil. And again, use my Cricut Design Space to create my stencils here. You can kind of see this one here says Hot Cocoa. And when I stencil, I like to take a pouncy brush, again using Debbie's Design Diary White Swan, nice thin coat, and I will kind of pounce it on so thin you can almost still see the wood right below. And then I will let that dry once I go all the way through, and then I'll come back again and do a second coat. But also the stencil material here, because it's kind of thick and it's a nice kind of vinyl material, it is nice and sticky as well, so it acts like a great stencil, and I barely get any bleed through. I think I only got 1 area of bleed through on the hot cocoa area. So I'm just kind of showing you this process here, the first coat going all the way through. And of course, if you don't have any type of stencils or anything like that, you could totally use the stickers or rub-on letters from Dollar Tree. They do have stencil letters, so you can line your letters up that way, or you can print out a phrase off of the computer if you like, and use carbon paper, you know, and trace through it onto carbon paper, and then use like a paint pen from Dollar Tree or a Sharpie marker or something like that, and then get your words on that way. And so the fonts I am using on these are Smackover and Stencil Time. And again, I'll have that listed in the description box. So here's my hot cocoa sign. Just kind of peeling that off. It's all done. Everything's done. I did the remaining off camera and pulling out the centers of my letters. And here's the one that says Ski Lodge. Nice winter phrases here I chose. I think will work well. And then this one says Alpine Chalet. And I looked up, you know, winter phrases on Pinterest or winter signs, and that's where I kind of got Ski Lodge and Alpine Chalet. You know, hot cocoa's easy to come up with because, of course, that can totally be wintry. So removing everything here, and then I'll show you what it looks like, how well that, look at this, nice, no bleed through on this one, how well that stencil works. And so now, because my sign is really distressed, I want my words distressed as well. So I took a piece of sandpaper and I folded it in half, and I'm just kind of scraping it along on the front. I'll show you here what it looks like when I'm all done, just kind of scraping through it. Just a little bit of distress here. You can see how that looks versus taking like a whole sanding block. You can see here how I'm holding the sandpaper, and this is what it looks like. Turns out really nice. And now I want to cover the bottom of this home decor piece because, you know, I will sell this as well. But if it's for you, you don't have to cover it. I think the elephant surely is cute. And just, of course, using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. I don't think I mentioned that at the very beginning of the video, but of course you can see what I'm using. And I'm just using a piece of like poster board here to glue onto the bottom. And I've got all sorts of greenery here you can use, you know, leftover from Christmas or whatever from Dollar Tree. But I chose greenery that was all frosty and snowy looking so that it would go in with the winter sign. And I'm just kind of cutting off little, you know, bits of the greenery so it's nice and flat on the bottom. And I tend to glue on the front and towards around the left side. So that's what I'm doing here. It doesn't take much. And I used some greenery that had some pine cones on it as well that are all frosty. And in a minute, we're going to make some cute little snowballs. I thought it would be cute to add some snowballs here as well. So just kind of gluing this on for you and letting you see the process, of course, because that's what these videos are all about, right? Letting you see the process. But you can see here, I mean, just 3 or 4 pieces here. That's all it took for the front. Now I'm going to go around to the side and kind of do the same thing. 3 or 4 little pieces here, leaving a room kind of in the corner, front corner there where we'll put our cute little snowballs. And using all sorts of different types of greenery here. But just add something, and if you don't want to add any greenery, you don't have to. If you don't have any, don't add it. I've done signs like this without adding greenery at the bottom. It just adds a little bit more if you want, like, you know, I'll be selling them, so I'm adding a little more. So they have these snowballs at Dollar Tree. You could totally leave them like they are, or we can make them a little better using Mod Podge and a Pouncy brush. And I like to use kosher salt for this because I love the texture of it, and it's bigger than just regular salt. I don't use regular salt at all, but you could use Epsom salt, but you can see the left is Epsom salt, the right is the kosher salt. I just like the texture better. And I'll add 2 kinds of glitter. The left glitter was from Walmart and the right is the fine glitter from Dollar Tree, and you just mix it into salt till you see the glitter appear however much you want. And then I take the Pouncy brush and I pounce on the Mod Podge. And then, of course, I will just dip it and roll it into the salt. Now, you can stop at 1 coat, or you can do 2, which is what I'm going to do. So I just do the same process again. Once it's dry, I'll add Mod Podge again right over it, roll it and dip it into our salt glitter mixture. And so on the left here is twice, and on the right is once. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to glue 1 more piece of greenery here in the front. I thought it needed 1 more pine cone, and then I made 5 of these cute little snowballs. And again, you can skip this process altogether and then just use the plain snowballs, or if they don't have those, you could buy the smallest styrofoam that Dollar Tree carries, and then you can kind of, you know, trim them up and shape them and roll them and make them smaller, or you can use the little pom-pom balls if you want. Anything like that would work. Or skip this step altogether. You don't have to add the cute little snowballs. But again, I'm just going to use 5. I'm going to place 3 here in a little pile. And then, you know, 1 on the right side, a little bit of our greenery, and 1 on the left here, just a little bit. I just thought it was a super fun idea. So once we get this in the place, we've got to get our signs on. So I have a couple of little like 1-inch nails here, and I'm just going to nail in all 3 signs. And once we get these nailed in, this project is complete. I really love how this sign turned out. It's so rustic and distressed, and I'm glad I decided not to leave all the arrows all white because it was just too much white. And just by adding a little paint right over the front, 1 coat, and then adding, you know, sandpapering in and distressing it, gave it a whole new look. Leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. Do you like this sign, or do you like the tag that we made, or maybe you like them both? Because you know what? That's okay too, because I like them both. Remember, if you're not a subscriber, to go ahead and hit that red subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on a single video from me. Please give this video a thumbs up. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.